Hello everybody, I hope you're doing really well. My name's Connie from Minerva and today I'm going to be showing you a selection of 11 Nina Lee patterns that we have stocked here at Minerva. I'm going to be showing all of the patterns themselves, having a look at the inside, the contents of the patterns, what you get included, but I'm also going to be showing you some fabrics which would work really well for every single pattern, so you don't have to think, is this going to work well with a cotton lawn or a cotton poplin? I've got you covered. As always, all of the products that I mentioned will be linked below, and if you have any questions or anything to say about the products themselves as I'm talking, you can put them in the comments section and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So Nina Lee Patterns are an independent pattern company based in London, and a lot of their designs are actually named after cultural sites in London, which I think is a really sweet touch. All of these patterns run from a size 6 to 20, which suits more of an hourglass shape, but Nina Lee are actually expanding their size range from a 16 to a 28, which suits more of a pear shape, so they're going to have you covered at all bases. So as I said before, I've got 11 patterns to show you, but we're going to start off with the dress that I'm wearing, which is actually the Bakerloo pattern. Just before we go on to the pattern itself, I thought I'd show you the dress. So I of course made my dress in this strawberry print Rose and Hubble printed cotton poplin. You want a fabric that's light to medium weight. It's got to have enough body to make the collar stand nicely, but not too much that the gathering is going to cause an issue. This dress comes in two variations. Of course, I've made the dress variation, which features a 60s looking oversized Peter Pan collar, puff sleeves with a little frill at the bottom and a gathered skirt. It also has a keyhole loop at the back, which is the fastening, which you can do with any kind of button that you would like. I just chose a simple red button to match the strawberries. However, you of course don't have to make this pattern in cotton poplin like I did. There's in fact a list of all of the fabrics that would be suitable for this pattern on the back, which is the case with all of these patterns, so it's really helpful. So they've actually suggested cotton lawn, poplin, which I used, chambray, soft needle cord, taffeta, and there's also a list of the notions that you'll need, so bias binding for the neck and elastic for the arms, which is here, which provides that little ruffle detail, and of course the button for the back closure. If you're a big fan of Instagram aesthetics, I would definitely class this dress within the kind of cottagecore aesthetic, because you can either have it short sleeve like I've done here, or you can make the longer sleeve variation, which would be more suitable for winter. And having the pattern in either a blouse or dress variation just makes it a bit more versatile, and you also get a bit more bang for your buck. The nice thing about this pattern as well is that you can also make a contrast in the fabrics that you use. I haven't, but you could easily put a trim on the collar. For example, a rickrack would look really cute and picnicky. You can also have a contrast fabric for the ruffles, or you could even make the skirt section and the bodice section different fabrics. I was thinking actually that this fabric in particular would look really nice with a green gingham trim. I think that would be clashing but not too different and really tie in the green of the little leaves on the strawberries themselves. So going into the pattern itself, the first thing I can definitely say is that these patterns are very pretty. They're going to look very nice if you have a sewing room on your shelf, just anywhere really. They're very pretty. Every single pattern has a colourful outline, and for example this one has little pictures of Sherlock Holmes with a little doggy paws next to it to kind of tie into the Bakerloo position of the pattern being inspired by places in London. Then we've got the actual instruction booklet that comes with every single pattern. This has detailed step-by-step instructions and also an illustration next to each instruction, so that if you need a little bit of visual guidance, you've got that as well. I personally found this extremely detailed and I didn't get lost at all during the making process. Then for the actual pattern pieces, they're made on this very durable card. I've just opened that a bit strangely there, but they're made on proper paper, not just tissue paper, which is going to make them very durable. And what I personally like to do is trace around the size that I'm going to make and then keep the pattern itself intact, so that if I wanted to make it for a friend or someone else who is a different size to me, then I can. And also because this pattern has the dress and the blouse variation, keeping the pattern itself intact is definitely a good idea if you wanted to mix and match and make the both of them. This is personally one of my favourite patterns from the Nina Lee pattern collection. I love the girliness of it. I love the oversized collar, which is also really in trend right now. and you can make this kind of kitschy or less kitschy if you want. I would personally go full on kitsch, and I would actually kind of make it into a picnic vibe, wear a little straw hat like this one, and just really relish in that oversized girliness of the frilly collar. It's such a fun design and so versatile that you can make the blouse or the dress. So moving on, the next pattern I have is the Bloomsbury blouse. This one also features a large ruffle collar, but instead of being a 60s more oversized modern look, this is actually Edwardian inspired, which I think is really interesting, especially if you're into historical sewing, and if perhaps you do some history bounding, this would be a great piece to include. But also, if you didn't want to include the ruffle because you think it's a bit much, you don't have to. This pattern is also super versatile in that respect, in that there's a few different variations for what you can do with it to make it a bit more you. So again, with this pattern, we've got the suitable fabrics on the back. So they've suggested cotton lawn, but also you can make this a little bit heavier with velvet, dupion silk, or with contrasting lace for the yoke sections if you really wanted to go for that Edwardian look. I've actually chosen to show you a lightweight cotton. This is a crinkle cotton gauze in optical white. This is a medium weight kind of fabric. It's quite spongy because of the crinkle texture, which makes it perfect for summer because it's not going to be kind of sticking to your skin, and the cotton natural fibres are going to be very absorbent if you get a little bit sweaty. Now, because this fabric does have this crinkled texture, I would suggest that when making, you don't try to iron it very flat because you want to keep that crinkle texture in there. If you do accidentally iron it too much, I wouldn't worry, because when you wash it, it's going to bounce back up. But for example, when you're pressing over seams, just steam it very lightly on a lower setting. Don't blast it so that all of the texture and lovely sort of like crinkle goes out of it. You don't want that. Also, by making this blouse in a white or a black or a cream, it makes it really easy to pair with different items from your wardrobe, but also keeps that historical Edwardian element, which I really love. So because this pattern is just the blouse, I would personally make an entire #me-made outfit from it and put it with some cigarette trousers. This would make it appropriate for work, but also more casual. It's just a classic look with a slightly historical twist, bringing it perhaps more into the 50s with the cigarette trousers, but then keeping an Edwardian look with the ruffles if you wanted to include them. For example, you could make the closet core Sasha trousers or the sew over it ultimate trousers. But if you are more into history rounding and you wanted to keep that Edwardian look, I would suggest making a long or midi skirt. For example, the Deer and Doe Fumeterre skirt would be perfect for this. But if you wanted to keep it within the family, Nina Lee also actually does a trouser pattern which would look amazing with the Bloomsbury blouse tucked into it. And these are the Portabello trousers. These are high-waisted, long, kind of relaxed fit trousers, and they're just gorgeous. I love them. I love the little dart detailing on the back and also the pleats at the front, which give them a little bit of volume. The Portabello trousers really are just one of those patterns that's universally flattering and timeless. They're a very simple shape, but I also think that they would be a perfect pattern to do if you're trying to attempt your first trouser pattern. This is because they have a zip in the centre back, and you don't have to deal with doing a fly front zip if you don't want to. I actually really want to attempt to make these now because I've been talking about them so much and they're just really flattering and pretty. So in terms of the fabric suitable to make this pattern, the pattern suggests light to medium weight wovens with a little bit of drape. So I've chosen this stretch viscose fabric. This is in a cornflower blue colour, and it also comes in a variety of more earthy tones and neutral tones, as well as having some brighter colours like red and purple. This fabric has a plain weave and it's a kind of matte texture, and it's most importantly very opaque, which is something that you definitely want when making trousers. It also doesn't crease, which is perfect for trousers because when you're sitting down, you don't want to stand up again and have those horrible creases at the kind of knee region that don't look very flattering. But this fabric doesn't do that at all. To make a complete outfit, a complete me-made again, I would personally pair these trousers with the Nico pattern from True Bias or the Rowan pattern from Megan Nielsen. Both of these patterns have a little mock turtleneck, which would look lovely, especially if with this fabric, with this cornflower blue, you did it in a bright sort of corally red. I would love that, and I actually am now convincing myself that I want to make this. But if you wanted to complete the look even further, you can go with a full powerhouse suit look and pair it with the Richmond blazer. So imagine the Portabello trousers and the Richmond blazer in this cornflower blue colour with a bright coral red turtleneck underneath. It would look fantastic and very 70s. So the Richmond blazer is a fully lined blazer, but it's designed to be made with fabrics that are not super heavy weight. So again, this cornflower blue would be perfect for that. It would also work well with corduroy, velvet and linen. I think a full linen suit would be beautiful as well with the Portabello trousers and the Richmond blazer. But don't worry, just because it's a blazer doesn't mean it's going to be incredibly difficult. As with all of the patterns, the instructions are incredibly detailed. The blazer has a relaxed long leg fit, which would make it perfect for layering. So I would personally put it with maybe a mini skirt on underneath, and then the blazer would just kind of like create that layering effect. So there's like the blazer stops there and then the skirt comes peeping out just below it. And I think if you did it in some color blocked colors, it would look amazing, super 70s, but also with a modern twist, having the layering with it. So next up we have the Camden pinafore and skirt. So again, this is a pattern with a variation. You can either make the skirt or the pinafore pattern, and what I particularly love about the pinafore is that you can make it with something on underneath. So for example, I would make the Tilly and the buttons Billy or Cocoa top, or you can wear it just by itself and it will work just as well. Something to mention, and something that I personally really love about these patterns, is that there are patch pockets on the front. So what I would personally do myself is I would make the pinafore or the skirt in one colour, and then I would pick out, perhaps if I was doing a floral, I would pick out a colour from that floral pattern and use that to make the patch pockets contrast. I think this gives it a really 70s retro look, but also a cutesy kind of kitsch feel, which is my personal style. You also have the option to make the skirt in two different lengths. You can either make it a little bit shorter or a bit longer depending on what you feel like. And also just to mention that the pinafore has a deep V detail at the front, which is very, very pretty. In terms of fabric that you can use for this one, you want fabric that has a little bit more weight to it. For example, they've suggested denim, lightweight wool, corduroy or velvet, and of course you've got your lining fabric as well. Now the fabric that I've got to show you today is this needle cord from Dashwood Studio 21 in this absolutely gorgeous and retro floral print. The flowers are quite oversized, it's not a ditzy floral. And also just to say, the cord is not like normal corduroy, it's needle cord, which means that it's a little bit thinner. The fabric is not as heavyweight, and the actual lines of cord themselves are smaller and a bit more close together and not as textured. So again, what I would do for the patch pockets is just pick out one of the colours that we've got in here, for example the peach or this bright red coral, and I would make the patch pockets in that colour just to make a contrast and make a little bit of the pop, so you could see, oh yeah, those definitely have pockets, which we definitely appreciate in women's clothing. Also, this needle cord fabric would look amazing in our next pattern, which is the Carnaby pattern. So the Carnaby dress is a simple shift dress pattern with a separate bodice and skirt and little pockets, which you can pick out and make a little bit of a feature and a detail in your pattern. It has two front bust darts and also a dropped waist. It has two front bust darts and also an exposed zip at the back, which you can also make a feature of. What I would actually do is pick out a colour for the exposed zip and also a colour for the pockets and make those two colours the same so that they become a feature of the dress. And it kind of would remind me of a Ted Baker almost look. Alternatively, you can choose fabrics which are in contrast colours for the bodice and skirt to create a 1960s colour blocking effect. So the pattern suggests to use medium weight woven fabric such as the needle cord that we just used, or some lightweight denim. Today I have this floral fabric in navy. This is a stretch cotton sateen and has a ditzy floral print on it, which, as we all know, florals come back into spring and summer to be in fashion every single year without fail. Also, just to say, the pattern on the back of this is of Carnaby Street. We've got a little illustration of Liberty, London, Shakespeare's Head, the Carnaby Street sign. Is just adorable. I love those details. So next up we have the Park Lane dress and blouse pattern. This pattern has lots of variations and it's super versatile. So you can make it with two different necklines, three different sleeves, and you can also add or take away the ruffle that's on there, so you can really customize it to how you want it to be. So if you wanted to make the dress version, it has a keyhole and button closure like the Bakerloo dress that I'm wearing, and it's also a midi length, and it has little gathers here, which I think is a really cute sort of 1950s, 1940s vintage touch, which just makes the dress a little bit more elegant and girly. An interesting detail about this pattern as well is that there's little cuffs at the edge of the sleeves to bring in that poof and make it a little bit more elegant than perhaps always using elastic. Also, this cuff has a placket, so if you wanted to challenge yourself a little bit more with something a tiny bit more difficult, this placket will provide that for you with your sewing ability. This pattern would work really the best with a fabric that is medium weight with a lot of drape to it. For example, viscose or gauze like I showed you earlier, the white gauze, or this viscose that I've got here, which is this absolutely gorgeous Italia brunette viscose challis granito in chestnut. I just love this. It's so pretty, the colour, and it also has an amazing drape, and it's also very opaque and fabulous quality. I think the colour of this would particularly suit a warmer or darker skin tone, and also the abstract print really reminds me of kind of a paint palette. I just think it's really unusual and really, really pretty, and would perfectly suit the sort of vintagey retro vibe of these little darts and the puff sleeves. I think it would look gorgeous. This Italia brunette viscose would also work incredibly well with our next pattern, which is another one of my favourites, and it's the Q dress. And again, with a lot of the Nina Lee patterns, you get a variation in design. So with the Q dress, you can either make it with little ruche sleeves, cold shoulder, or you can just chop it off and make the skirt pattern just by itself with a flattering high-low hem. To me, this dress definitely has a 1940s retro tea party feel, with the little puff sleeves and the buttons all down the front with a v-neck and this sort of like gathering detail along the shoulders. I think it's gorgeous, and for the reason that it looks like a tea party dress, I've picked out this fabric here. This is the Lady McElroy Marley Cotton Lawn. And this fabric has adorable pots all over it. These are Egyptian vases and Egyptian pots and teapots, which I think would be so cute in this dress. And if you wanted to, you can also make the buttons of this dress match the fabric by using buttons which you can cover with the fabric of your dress, which will also be linked below. This is cotton lawn, so as you can see it has a lot of drape to it and it's fairly lightweight, which I would more suggest for the pattern with the sleeves. But if you wanted to make the pattern with the cold shoulder, I would personally make it out of a viscose twill, which has a slight bit more body, just because you don't want the opening at the front to be gaping slightly, which it maybe would with a lawn, because it's just that little bit more flimsy. And I know I've mentioned the buttons a million times, but I really like the detail, and I could definitely imagine that you could replace the normal buttons with perhaps pearl snaps or something a bit more unusual. For example, even if you made it out of a similar fabric to what I've got on today, this strawberry print but perhaps in a viscose, then you could do like little strawberry buttons. I think that would be adorable. I would say that the Q dress has a little bit more details than other dresses that we've seen from Nina Lee. There are facings, there's obviously the ruche sleeves and the cold shoulder detail, which are a little bit more challenging, maybe more of an advanced beginner to intermediate sewer. Okay, so moving on to our jersey knit patterns, I firstly have to show you the Mayfair dress. Now this dress has no less than 6 variations, as you can change the sleeve length or make a midi or maxi dress, which brings it from daytime into evening wear. This pattern is extremely flattering, as the gathering detail and the fabric choice, which is a lightweight jersey, will just skim over your skin, and also the tie detail at the waist means that you can adjust it to whatever tightness you want. So this pattern is designed for fabrics with a fantastic drape. On the back they've suggested to use knit fabrics with a 25% crosswise stretch and with some drape, e.g. viscose jersey. So the fabric that I have to show you today is this fantastic abstract printed fabric. This is the John Caldor Portia ITY silky knit fabric, and it's in this abstract blue and red print. What I really like about this fabric is that it's extremely drapey, but it doesn't crease at all. Like, this is the kind of fabric that you can take on your travels, you can screw it up in your suitcase and it won't crease at all. And that's because it's made from 95% polyester and 5% elastane. So you can really just screw this up on your drawers. You don't actually have to fold it up even normally, and it's not going to crease or ruin the effect of the pattern at all. I would say that it has a similar weight to viscose jersey, and the other thing about ITY fabric is that it takes colour extremely well, which is why this pattern is so saturated. It's also really easy to sew with because a lot of viscoses will kind of curl at the edges whilst you're sewing, but ITY doesn't do that at all, and it's very easy and sort of stable to sew with. As well as that more abstract print, I really think that this pattern would look superb in a coral red or jewel tone, any jewel tone, and it would really look like Joan Holloway from Mad Men if you watched that show. Now, our next knit pattern is slightly different because it involves a heavier knit, and this is for the South Bank sweater. Now, like many of Nina's patterns, we have got three variations for this one. We've got a dress kind of sweater look, or we've got a long sweater, or we've got a cropped sweater, all with this mock little polo neck, which is such a lovely detail. The South Bank sweater is definitely one of Nina Lee's most popular patterns, and that's because it's just such a simple and versatile design. I could definitely imagine the third variation, which is the crop sweater, going extremely well with the Camden skirt or even the Camden pinafore over the top of it. Alternatively, I could definitely imagine this in a lighter jersey for the summer months, and I would pair that with the Closet Core Pietra shorts. Or you could even make the full dress and use it as like a beach cover up. You know, you get out of the sea, you're freezing cold, and you just chuck this on over the top. It would be so cozy, but also a bit summery as well, depending on the fabric choice. So for this pattern, you need a knit with a medium to heavyweight stretch, and I've gone with this French terry loop back. This one has a drapey light hand. It's not super heavyweight, it's definitely more of a summer choice for this jumper or dress. It's incredibly good quality and very soft, and it has this lovely sort of like pink poppies, we've got some green vines, and it's got a lovely navy background, so you can definitely pair it with your navy jeans. The Nina Lee South Bank sweater is definitely one of her most popular patterns just because it's very approachable to beginners and it makes a quick make. If you are wanting a project that you can complete in a day, this one is definitely for you. And last but not least, our final pattern is a pajama pattern. This is the Piccadilly pajamas, and these actually come in two variations. You can either make the short sleeved and short variation or the long sleeved and long trouser variation of these pajamas. So these pajamas have a mandarin collar, which is a little bit different and makes them just a little bit more interesting, and there's some more detail. There's also exposed bias binding. So what I would do is, again, have a fabric that's for the main body of the pajamas and then have a contrast fabric for the bias. You can either buy this or make this yourself. It's very easy to do. Just fold the fabric on the bias and cut it sort of like at a right angle, and then you can make your own bias binding. These pajamas are both stylish and comfy. They have an elasticated drawstring waist with a little like ribbon detail, which looks really cute, and as I said, the mandarin collar and the patch pockets on the front make this just a bit more of an interesting pajama design. Also, of course, it depends what fabric you want to make your pajamas out of. If you wanted to make them a little bit more luxurious, you could use something like silk satin, but if you wanted a more cozy feel, you could use cotton lawn, which is the kind of fabric that I'm going to show you now. So this is the cotton lawn I have. It's another floral, but the flowers aren't ditzy. They're pink big scale flowers with a blue navy background. This fabric is lightweight and it has a very nice drape and would be perfect for the summer months, but if you wanted to have these pajamas with the long sleeves and the long trousers, you could definitely up the weight of the fabric to have them a bit more versatile for winter as well. And what's interesting about these pajamas is that I actually think that you could wear them outside. Imagine just taking the long sleeve version of the top of the pajamas and making it in a black silky satin or a taffeta, like a crushed taffeta. I think that would look amazing as outerwear. I mean, if Rihanna did it, you can definitely do it as well. Right, that is actually everything I have to show you today. Those are all 11 Nina Lee patterns. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and feel at least a little bit inspired inspired. I know I definitely do, and I really now want to make that cornflower blue suit with the red turtleneck underneath. Don't forget that if you sign up with Minerva and create an account, you can save this video. If you liked anything I mentioned, come back to it at any point and have a look at the comments, add comments if you want to. Minerva's platform at the moment serves to connect sewists all over the place and inspire them. You can share your own posts, save others, like, comment on other people's posts, and have a look at what fabric and patterns that they're using. Also, if you like this video, you can follow on the button above to see more Minerva videos, pattern hauls, DIYs, tutorials, you name it. And I'll see you next time. Bye!